I want to share a couple tips with you on what I've learned about painting wood cutouts. I prefer using a cosmetic wedge over a paintbrush because it helps not get paint all over the sides of the wood cutouts, and then I don't have to worry about fussy painting around that. So I like to use cosmetic wedges. For larger surfaces I'll use a whole one. Otherwise I'll cut it in half lengthwise, and I'll just use this bottom for smaller areas. So onloading is when you're putting paint on a surface or on your wedge or brush. Offloading is when you're just kind of working it into that brush or cosmetic sponge that you're using. So now I have a full complete coverage but not a glob of paint. And then for larger surfaces I can just slide it across where I would have already reloaded my brush at least 3 times. So then I onload, offload, just so there's not a glob on there. And I'll let it dry in between coats, and I'll add a second coat to this once it's dry. Then I just go back over the entire surface to make sure I don't have any rectangles left by the sponge. See how quickly that was done? So the other tip I wanted to share with you is when you're doing small pieces, if you take a piece of tape, painter's tape, and pull a piece off and just kind of loop it, stick it to your surface, and then you can just plop those little shapes down. It'll stick so that you can dab that color on top. So I'm going to use a smaller sponge, and these are going to be black, these are going to be white, but I'm going to use a smaller sponge to do the black. Again, I'm onloading and offloading, and then I'm just tapping. And I'll come back and add a second coat on these as well. This helps if you don't have, globs of paint on your sponge, then this helps not get it all over the edges as well. And you're not fighting with painting your fingers at the same time that you're painting a surface. And then when I usually just set these aside, and when they dry I'll cut off the end with the scissors. I'll just snip off the end, kind of get under that paint and snip the end off, and then I have another surface that I can use, and I will use them until I can't use them anymore. But they last quite a while. Here are some that I've used yesterday and I cut the ends off, and I'll just put them in a bag and I'll grab them if I need to do a quick little touch-up or paint or something like that. So I hope those tips help.